In today's session, we will talk about invoice automation application. So this will be a complete end-to-end application, and this will be a long session. So stay with me. Let me explain with the architecture first. I hope you can see this picture. So is this in this invoice automation, and the first step would be we will create some invoices, and these invoices will be uploaded in a SharePoint document library. And once the invoice is uploaded into document library, it will trigger a Power Automate workflow. And from the workflow, we will send a request to an Azure Function app. This function app will send this invoice to the Azure Document Intelligence service. So that document intelligence service will take the invoice, process it, and send us the data back. It will extract the data and send it back to the function app. So the function app will take the data and extract the invoice ID and the invoice total from the invoice. So that will go back to the Power Automate. So after that, Power Automate will query SharePoint list. So we will have a list that will store all the receipts against the invoices. So based on the invoice ID, we will get the receipt information, and then Power Automate will check if the invoice total matches the receipt total. If both are same, equal, then all is good. But if there is a difference, then it will send a Teams message to someone in accounts department that somebody did not pay the accurate amount and that needs to be checked manually. So that will be our complete flow. So let me show you the workflow which we will end up building. So this will be our workflow. So it will trigger when we upload an invoice in a document library. So we will get the content of that invoice, and then we'll send a request to the Azure function. Azure function will return us invoice ID and the amount, and we will compare that amount with a SharePoint list called receipt, invoice receipts, and then we will have a condition if the invoice total coming from that HTTP Azure function, if that is equal to the receipt invoices, then all good. Otherwise, we will send a Teams notification message. So this all looks in the picture. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is we need to create a document library. So we need to create the document library so that will hold invoices. But before that, let's have a look at the invoices. If we go to this website, which is createonlineinvoices.com. So what I have done is just open that invoice and download as a PDF, and then remove few items, and then download again a second version, and then remove few more items, or maybe add few more items and download the invoice. So I have already downloaded 3 invoices. So the most important thing here is that invoice number and the total amount of that invoice. So in our second invoice, in the first invoice, the total was $935. In the second invoice, the total was 560. And in the third invoice, the amount total is 500. So we have invoices, and the next thing we need to do is we need to have a SharePoint document library so we can upload these invoices. So let's go to SharePoint, And in the document section, I can create a new folder here. I call it invoice automation. So what we want is when we upload any invoice in that document library, we have to trigger a Power Automate workflow. So let's go to Power Automate workflow and create a new one. That would be automated cloud workflow and call it invoice automation. And the trigger of that would be I think this one, when a file is created. Okay, let's look at the properties. So the site address would be my website, and this one would be documents. That would be our folder. And the folder we have is in the shared documents, invoice automation. So that would be our folder. So whenever we drop anything into this folder, this workflow will be triggered. And the only thing we want to do here is just send the Teams message just to make sure the trigger is working fine. So that will be chat with the flow. Recipient would be myself. Just a simple workflow. So whenever we drop a file in that folder, this should trigger a workflow. So we save it and test it. Yeah. And now we need to upload a file. So let's pick this one, this invoice. I uploaded it. So invoice has been uploaded, and within few seconds, this should show the progress. Okay, looks like it has been triggered. And we also received a message in the chat. Yep, here we can see the message appearing the invoice has been uploaded. So that shows the workflow is working. Now the next thing we need to do is, so we have invoice, we have document library, we now have Power Automate, which just does the basic thing. And after that, we have to now create a function app. Okay, I already have a function app as a blank function app, nothing fancy, nothing happening here. So I will create a trigger, a function app, Azure function. So I will call it invoice automation. I think, yeah, nothing. That's name is fine. Okay, so what kind of trigger that be? So I think this would be HTTP trigger. Not sure if you can read this code. But- Okay, let me build this solution. Okay, solution is built fine. Okay, now let's test it with Postman. Let me run it first. And now we open Postman. So in Postman, I already have a collection with just one endpoint, and the name of that endpoint is invoice automation. Or maybe I can create a new one. So we need a complete URL, which is this. And that's it. I think let's put a breakpoint. Yeah, it's running. So that is all good. Okay, so this Azure function will be called from the Power Automate. So technically, this Azure function should receive a base 64 string of the invoice and then process that invoice through Azure Document Intelligence service, extract the text, and return invoice ID and invoice total. But before that, let me change this a little bit. So first thing we need to do is we need to get the base 64 string of the invoice. Uh, let's go here. So we will give this invoice, get the text, and that text will be added in the body. Note as this as a text, and that would be a post request. Let's see if that still works fine. Yep. So it can receive the text, which is all good. Now the next thing we need to do is after the logging, we need to get the base 64 text, which is coming in the request. So that would be request body addressing. And that will be a stream. That would be stream reader. So that would be async method. So my application result would be and async. Okay, we got the string. We now need to get the bytes. So we got the bytes, and let's test this part. Okay, looking all good. So now we need to send this the byte array we received to the document intelligence service, and the document intelligence service will take these byte array and extract the data. But before that, there is an extra step, in fact, optional step. What I would like to do is, once we receive this byte array, I want to make sure that this PDF is still valid. It's not corrupt PDF because it's a base 64 string, and if it has some invalid characters in it, it will make the PDF file corrupt. So what we can do is temporarily we can write this byte array into a file. Mm. So what we can do is we can go to, so we can temporarily write this PDF file into a storage account, Azure storage account. So I have Azure storage, and in containers, I have an empty container called invoice automation. So we can upload this PDF file here and then we will download it, and just to make sure that the PDF file is correct. And for that, so that would be blob client. So first we need connection string, and then we need a container name, and we don't need this. So the container name would be this thing, and the connection string. So connection string will come here, but I would say we will store this connection string in user secrets because it contains some sensitive data. So that would be
And you can go to your storage account and go to security, go to access keys, and you can get connection string from here. So we got the connection string. Sorry, no. Okay, so now we need to read this connection string from the secrets. So first thing we need to do is we need to load high configuration. Okay, so they're looking good. So now we need to call this here. Let's see. Let me run this out for the time being. I just want to make sure that we can read from the configuration file, the secret file. Okay, so that is running. And if I send this, coming null, so that means something is wrong. So probably we need to write something here. Builder dot configuration dot add user secrets. And now we should be able to, yeah, okay. So that looks good. We can read the connection string and let's fix this. So this is not a blob client. So this would be blob container client. That will take two things. The connection string we have just received and the invoice automation folder. So now we file name. So that looking fine. Just a GUID channel number. Okay, so now we need to have a client. And once we do that, put in the using block. So that will be memory stream that will take the data and then it will upload the blind, the block.
Okay, and let's write a try catch block. Run it. If everything is okay, this should upload a blob in the storage account, and then we should be able to download and make sure that the PDF file, this text is correct. Okay, looking good. So if I go to container, yeah, a blob has been created. We just download it and looks perfect. This is exactly what we uploaded. So that looks all fine. So that means this text which we generated through a website is correct. Okay. So now it's working fine locally, but we have to call this function app from Power Automate, which is in cloud. So we have to deploy this function app, and then from Power Automate, we will call this function app and make sure that still works. So to do that, first thing we have to make sure that we deploy it. This has been published, which is all good. And now if we go to Azure Function app, okay, seeing some errors, but it has loaded the function. So let's just refresh. Okay, so that looks good. Click on that function and go to function URL and just grab that URL. And now we have to test it from the Postman. So we can move this pod to environment. I already have local and Azure environment, so this will go here. And in Azure environment, I will copy this whole thing, paste it here. So we only need this part. So in this here, let's say call it invoice automation. And this part is now server URL. And if I'm running locally, then it should trigger this one. Yeah, with the local environment, and this should trigger my local. Yeah. And if I say cloud, then this will go to, this will be calling this one. But before that, so let's remove that file from the storage account just to make sure that it's running fine. Okay. So when we go to Azure, we have to put the key. So everything after the question mark, including question mark. So maybe if that's correct. Okay. So now if I select Azure environment and pass this code, this should trigger the one which is deployed. So let's hit send. Okay, looks like it is working. But it did not create any file. Let's have a look. Maybe let's remove this try catch and see the actual error. Okay, publish is fine. And let's see, run it now. Okay, let's go to an error. What the error is, we don't know. Okay. Uh, so possibly error is in this section. So when we go to write PDF file, we have a connection string. Oh, I think possible error would be this one because we don't have this configuration setting in cloud. So we need to add this one. Okay. I think there is a better way of doing this. We can add a if condition just to check if this doesn't exist, then throw some sort of a user-friendly error, but I should be fine. Let's see now. Hmm, still an error. I think let's try to reproduce it. Uh, First thing, let me check if I have uploaded the connection string correctly. So that would be this thing. If it is a connection string problem, then I think I can do is I can make it one, and this will throw error. Yep. So that's error we are getting. But let me make this one a little bit user friendly. We can do is return object result and the new message would be ex.message. And that should be enough. Okay. So now at least we can see a user friendly message. And let me deploy this one. This has been published, and we have also updated the storage connection string. And let's see now. Meanwhile, let me check what we have in the invoices. Okay, so let's see. There we go. So I think that connection string was a problem. It should have created. Okay, here we go. We got a PDF file, and just to make sure the PDF file is correct, we can download. Yep, all good. So the next thing now is we have to call this function app, which we have tested locally and also from Azure. It's all working. So we now need to call this function app in the Power Automate. So before sending this message to the chat, we need to add an HTTP request. This one. The URL would be what, Azure URL. Method will be post. In the body, we don't have stream, so we need to get the content of the file, and add, we need to add another step, which is get content. Yeah, get file content. So the site address would be this, and the folder. So we need to find out the URL of that file. Let me save this one. I can't save, so I need to delete and then save. And if we look at this one, so the output of that action would be, so somehow we need this path, file path. So it is stored in a file path property. Okay, so that would be get file content. This is my site, and this one would be, okay, we got the full path, and then we can use this in HTTP. Okay. So the body will be the file content of that action. So that will be sent to HTTP request, and then it just posts the message in the channel. So let's see how it works. So we already have a file. So if it is all works, then it will get the file content and send a request to HTTP, which will upload the file in our storage account. So let me delete this one and test. Let's see. Routes did not match. Okay. So that's, so this file path needs to be encoded. So that would be encode URL component. Because it's a URL, so that URL needs to be encoded. And this one would be full path. Looks fine to me. Try now. Okay, so it's saying HTTP failed as partial condition not valid. The response is initially partial content. Okay, that we know. In HTTP, if you go to settings, so is one of the setting is called chunking. So we need to make sure this is false. This is not on, and then try again. Fingers crossed. Okay, looks like this also worked, and we can see the message. So if everything is okay, then we should be able to see an invoice created here. There we go. So that is all looking good. So whenever the file is uploaded into this document library, we get the content, we get the HTTP request, which currently just create the invoice, but this function should return the invoice detail, and then we go to the next step. So what we can do now is, so this one was just for testing. We don't need it now, but now let's create the invoice data function. So I will call it get invoice data. So that will take the byte array. And from here, if we go to Azure Foundry, if you don't know about the Azure Foundry, then I have a separate video on that. So that covers how to create Azure Foundry and how to create this project. So if you go to AI services and the Vision Plus document, you will see invoices. So this we will use this service. So just click on view code. We are doing in C#, and you can copy the exact same code, or maybe I can write line by line and explain it. So let's find out the endpoint. So endpoint is not a secret, so we can put that in here. So key is secret, so we will put key in user secrets. So that key is basically this string. And when you add a key here, we also need to add this in our function app. Okay, we have added the key. Next, we need to add the endpoint. Let's find the value of endpoint first. So you go to your AI Foundry in Overview tab. You can grab the key and endpoints from here. So that would be something like this. So that is all good. So we need to have a key string endpoint will be So let's run it and make sure we can get these keys. So we have endpoint and the key, so that is all working. Next, we need to create Azure key credentials. Then we have document analysis client, so that is document intelligence client, this one. After that, yep, this would be analyze document async. So wait until completed, and then we have comma, then we have that. That is fine. And then we have for loop here. Yep. And this will be, yep. And let's see if it works. So in the fields, I can see 5 fields extracted from the PDF. And the field type is date. This one is invoice, which is what we need. This is the total we need. We don't need this one, and we don't need this one. Okay, so we got what we need. So what we need to do here is if field is equals to something something, and then we need invoice number. So that would be E, and then we have string invoice total. So that will be double. So we need to find out the key first. So we need to run again and debug it. Okay. So invoice date we don't need. Invoice ID, that is what we need. So if it is invoice ID, then oh, it have those gone. So that should assign the content into that. Let's see. This one is invoice date. That is invoice ID. And that is the value. All good. This one is invoice total. And we have 935. Just copy the key. Okay, so maybe that one. Let's see. Okay, so that works fine. You can add these conditions and checks. That's not important. So we don't need to convert this into double. It's already in double. So now we need to return two values, and what we can do is we can create a tuple of type string and double, and then we return here. That's it. And then when we come here, so this one, and we can do is, so invoice ID is equals to invoice total dot item one, invoice total is equals to item. That's it. Let's see how it works. Okay. So if we go to invoice ID and we go to invoice total, that's great. And that should be returned here. Awesome. So that is what we need. So now we need to deploy it and run from the cloud. Okay, it has been deployed. All good. Uh, we just need to make sure that we have copied all these connection strings. So we had Azure Document Intelligence endpoint. Yeah. So we got the key as well, and the storage account connection string is not needed, but we have there. Okay, if it is deployed fine, and then we switch to Azure, we should get this data back. Let's see. Okay, so we got the data back, so which means our function app deployed in Azure is working as expected. Okay, if we now go to our workflow, so we now call the HTTP, and this would return the data back, and we know the type of the data, which is JSON. So now we need to have a parse JSON. So what would be the content? So the content would be the body coming from the HTTP, and the schema would be this thing. So now in this message, we can write invoice has been, we don't need that now. Now we can say invoice has been parsed. Invoice ID is this one. Invoice total is this thing. And that message should be now sent to our Teams chat. Let's test it. Okay, it came back, but it came back empty string. Interesting. we need to look. Okay, so it's not content, it's this thing we need to get. So this is not correct. So we need to delete this one. So we need to go to file content, and under that there is a dollar sign. Content things. That's what we need. And that should be fine now. Let's test. Okay, looks like we got it. So we got the invoice ID is this, and the invoice total is that. Great. In my diagram, so we go to document intelligence service, and this is in Power Apps. We got invoice ID and then invoice total, and from there we need to send a request to SharePoint to get invoice receipt. So we need to have an invoice receipt in SharePoint. So I have a SharePoint list that has title and the invoice total. So the title would be this thing, and the invoice total would be 935. This one is 560. And this one is 500. Okay, so now we need to get this information from the invoice list in our flow. So what we can do is we can go here and click on get items. So list will be this. We know the list name, which will be invoice receipt. And we need a filter query, which will be, I think that is called title equals to invoice ID. So that will give us total, and then we need to have a if condition. Condition would be, so the invoice total coming from the get items is equals to the invoice total coming from the HTTP request. If it is equal to true, I mean both are equal, we don't need to do anything. But if it is not equal, then we need to send a message. Not on this message. We can leave it here. There is a mismatch between the invoice and the receipt. Let's run it. In this case, it should not send any message to Teams. It just should go to the true condition. So that is not correct. Yeah. So we need to. So this is a string. We need to put single quotes, and that's it. Okay. So looks like it went to the true condition, and it did not send any message to the channel. So if we have a look at the invoice ending with 32, invoice ending with 32 has a total of 935, which is correct. But now we can make it something else. So for example, the customer was sent an invoice of 935, but customer paid 835. So in this case, this is a mismatch, and it should send a notification to somebody to have a look. So we just need to rerun, I guess. Okay. So we have received a message, and it says we should have displayed the other total as well. There is a mismatch between the invoice and the receipt, which is fine, expected. But we are displaying 935. So that is invoice total. So we can display receipt total is this is not invoice total. This should have been receipt total. I think we can change it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So create a new column, call it receipt total. So that will be a number. And that's it. Okay, that's gone now. So the invoice is 932. The total is 935. We are making it 835 just for testing. So now this one is the receipt total. We might need to In that condition, this is not invoice total. Might need to refresh it. Yeah. So just save it. Ah, yes, expected. So that is receipt total now. And that looks okay. And in here, so we already have invoice total, and that receipt total is okay. Let's do a test. So that looks good. So invoice was 935, but customer paid 835, and a message was sent, which is good. And now let's look at the other invoices. So ending with 34, total would be 560. Ending with 35, total is 500. Okay, so we have one invoice which is ending with 32. Let's upload another invoice. And before that, let's run it in a test mode. Let's upload this one. Okay. So now it should run without any issues, and it should not send a message in Teams. Okay, so in this case, it did not trigger this one, so which is what we were expecting. And let's put the other invoice. I will move it to test mode. Uh, no need to move in test mode. Go to this one. So that was just successful. So now the last one ending with T4, and this should also process fine without any issues. Okay, so this one is also successful. So that means it's all working fine. If we look at our design, we are saying if it compares the total, if there is a mismatch in the total, then it sends a notification. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. One minor improvement you can do is in the Teams message, because this was a mismatch. So what we can do is we can include a link that will directly take it to this record. To the, for example, if this is a mismatch, then clicking on the link should take this one. That's optional. I will leave it up to you guys. And I think that's it. And again, this was a long session, and thank you very much for watching. And if you liked it, then just add a comment. And yeah, I don't have any subscribers, so I just need subscribers. And if you have any question, put in the comment and like my video. And see you again in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.